asked a dear sister of mine to come and share with us just for a few moments tonight, because in so many ways, she is a partner and fellow sojourner. I can't tell you how many phone calls I've had with this dynamic sister, sometimes early in the morning, sometimes late at night. But when we start sharing ideas back and forth and insight, it just gets exciting to my soul. And it's also wonderful because when I connect with this dear sister, I feel like I'm in partnership with somebody who has a similar energy and a kindred spirit and a drive. And I'm like, yes, I got a sojourner, a fellow sojourner on this path. And so I'm very, very grateful tonight to bring forward a dear sister, Reverend Kendra Smith from the Kingdom Fellowship AME Church, who's here with us this evening. And I want to thank you so much, Reverend Kendra, for being with us tonight.
You are absolutely welcome. It is a pleasure to serve. Life is a gift and time is a gift. And so, we always want to steward, what God has given us. And so when you called, I said, absolutely. I can move some things around and get on for a few. And plus, we love this work. So whatever I can do, to share knowledge or resources or information as we continue to build out the network, because it's not really just about, as you said, one church. It's really about collaboration and partnership and learning from each other. Just as we learned about this 3D, I'm going to check it out myself. So that's how we grow. You know what I mean? So just let me know if you want me to jump in, if you want me to wait, whatever, if you have questions, how you want to, what's the best way to move forward with it?
Yep. So I'll give a little context and let's dive right in.
Yep.
So this group, we are streaming live on Facebook, and we have group here in the Zoom room.
Nice.
And so the group in the Zoom room, we have been in study together for the past 4 weeks.
Wow.
And these are folks who reached out with interest to host soil to sanctuary markets at their church. And as you know, these are our Black farmers markets that really center and celebrate our Black farmers and Black businesses and local businesses. And we bring it right to the church. The whole thinking is, when it comes to how do we transform the food environment of our communities, we do not have the luxury or time to wait for grocery stores to come in or be built in our neighborhoods. If they come, praise God, but we can't hold our breath. And when it comes to other kind of sources where we get our food from, we oftentimes don't have the agency or the power to make those things happen. It's oftentimes dependent on corporations or elected officials. And while we have a lot of great politicians, elected officials who are partners in this thing, we just don't have the luxury to wait on when they might come through with the promise around getting nutrient-rich produce to our communities. And so the thinking and thought is, and this is some context even for those who are watching on Facebook who might watch this later, the thinking and the thought is, in the Black community, we have so many Black churches. And with our churches, if we don't have nothing else, especially and even in economically impoverished communities, you can bet your bottom dollar that there'll be a few things in these communities. Liquor stores and churches. You can bet it's going to be there. Liquor stores and churches. Now, we don't have no programming yet for liquor stores. We praying on it. Lord, help us, help us. We're going to pray for deliverance for the liquor stores in our communities. But in the meantime, we do have a voice and we do have some agency with our churches and these buildings that we already own, this land that we already own, that in many respects goes underutilized Monday through Saturday, can be powerful and transformative factors in our neighborhoods that can not only be the sources where food is distributed, but also where people can come to get what they need in kind of a market style kind of way in the buildings that we already own. And so that is what brought many of the people in our group tonight to the table initially. And there's interest in this group as well for our other programming, our garden programming. Some of them want to start gardens or want to expand their gardens. or our food supply chain work. And that is why I asked you to come on tonight, primarily because Reverend Kendra Smith, everybody, when COVID hit, I mean, Kingdom Fellowship AME Church, and I have to shout out my dear brother and our great leader, Pastor Watley, for his visionary leadership. And this was already cemented before the pandemic, but when the pandemic hit, his leadership skills, that God has given him, went to a whole nother level. And Kingdom Fellowship AME Church, which was already leading in so many other spaces, leaned into the food space with even greater focus. And so I've asked Reverend Kendra to come on tonight to share a little bit about what Kingdom Fellowship AME Church has done with respect to food and food distribution, and the ways that her leadership helps to bring that about. And I'm asking her to share it, and she'll just be with us for a few moments. As you heard, she changed some things around. Look like you on a movie set somewhere, Reverend Kendra. I love, that's not even a fake background. That's your real place. So praise the Lord. I love it. One day when I grow up. But let me say, but I asked Reverend Kendra to come on because there's some insight that she has about the ways that churches need to be thinking about how to, in some cases, reconfigure their ministry to sustain food-based ministry over the long haul, how to make some adjustments, or even how to change how they're thinking about ministry. Because it's one thing to do a one-off food distribution. It's another thing, and this is Kingdom Fellowship's testimony, it's another thing to be doing this for multiple years and then make a commitment to keep it going. And so I want everybody to hear from Reverend Kendra about what do our churches, or what should our churches be thinking about when it comes to how to position and posture ourselves for sustainable ministry when it comes to food and addressing food issues in our community.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Of course, can't say enough about Pastor Brown. I have learned so much under his leadership. I really, really have. And I'm extremely grateful for who you are in the kingdom and how God is moving us forward. So I think they're just a few components that are transferable. Sometimes we can feel that if we don't have a certain amount of money, that means that, it limits our ministry. But I'm sure everybody on this call has the heart and the understanding to know that, where, there is vision, God will give you provision. And it's about blooming where you're planted, no pun intended. So being able to take what we have and use that consistently over time and allow it to grow strategically, but also it can grow organically, because what churches will begin to find is you begin to find your area. You begin to find where you thrive. You begin to find what your church brings that maybe another church or another organization is not bringing. So there are just a few things. One is prioritizing. So if this is a ministry that you want to do, and of course, the understanding is that if you're obviously not the pastor of this church or the lead of this organization, then, of course, getting that approval from the authority, because you will need that. So as Pastor Brown shared, well, he's not Pastor right now, but he's always Pastor Brown to me. So I'm gonna keep calling you Pastor Brown. So as Pastor Brown shared, Pastor Watley, my pastor, was fully bought in when the pandemic came. And we just started doing this, by the way. So it'll be going into our third year. We didn't have any major food ministry like this. We did Thanksgiving, Christmas, we fed the homeless, but it wasn't like this. So I want to be very transparent about that. This is all, what we learned over the last 2 years. And so we had his support. We pivoted some resources from the church. The church was, not as fully open. So we had to pivot we had money to pivot to other areas, right? And I don't think it's as important as how much money, but it's money. Again, start where you are. So with that, we prioritized this ministry. In other words, in Pastor Watley's words, we like to eat every day. And if I like to eat every day, everybody else likes to eat every day. So for us, our commitment, once we saw the need, we started in March 2020 with one grab and go distribution with some of our partners at Prince George's County Public Schools. We probably fed about 500 households with kid kind of snack packs. We were so underprepared. I mean, we were not ready. I'm gonna tell you the truth. We just weren't ready. We know what we were doing, but we did it. And what we didn't realize is that we would be serving every week from that day, not just in one county, which is in Prince George's, but in 2 counties in about 7 different locations. Now, mind you, that's kingdom. What I'm going to share, though, are principles that are transferable, regardless of your budget. Okay, so one is prioritizing. Is this something we're going to do? And if we're going to do it, how committed are we going to be to it? Are we going to continue? Is this something we want to continue on? Or are we just trying our hand to kind of see if it's going to work or if it's not going to work? Because you all know when we prioritize something, then it helps us to focus. Prioritizing helps us to focus. So other things are going to happen. There are going to be there are a lot of other awesome ministries. You know, we all know them, right? So we have to prioritize it. And once we prioritize it, then we need to focus on what that priority is. Okay, so that's prioritizing your food ministry and then focusing in on that food ministry consistently over time. And that's going to be my next point. My next point is just consistency. So sometimes we jump in and we jump out. We're over here and then we're over there. We're going to do this, now we're going to do that. If I select that I'm going to do, a food market, and we're going to do, the farmers food market on Saturdays at 10 a.m., then we're going to do the farmers food market on Saturdays at 10 a.m. every week, or whatever your consistency is. If it's once a month, it's once a month. But of course, in our communities, we know that people are not as trusting, right? And so we have to show them that we have a sense of permanency. So permanency means I'm not going anywhere. You here, I'm here, we all here together. So when I have a sense of permanency, that means people can learn to depend on me. And when people learn to depend on me, then other things begin to open up and other things begin to happen. Even if it's once a month, if it's once every 3 months, let it be once every 3 months and be okay with that. Because sometimes we want to start all the way out here, but it's not sustainable. We don't have the money, we don't have, the staffing, we don't have the equipment, we don't have it. And I'm speaking I'm a former church planter as well. So I understand what it is to try to start something from scratch. You just have to start where you are. So, we do it every week, but we do it every week because we can. So find a rhythm and a routine, right? Start once a month and do once a month, but do once a month with a spirit of excellence. Whatever you can bring to it, don't be shoddy with it. Don't have, all kinds of crazy looking flyers. It needs to be professional. We have to serve our people with a spirit of excellence, and we have to serve them with the spirit of respect. Who wants to come and get food from somebody and the table's all lopsided and the sign is crooked and it looks like my 6-year-old child made it? I mean, I don't mean any harm, but that's not helpful because it's not professional. So that's the other thing, at least for Kingdom, we're professionals. You know what I mean? And even if I don't know what I'm doing, they don't have to know that. They do not have to know that. They do not need to know. The people I'm serving don't need to know that. So you want to be prioritized, you want to focus, you want to have a sense of consistency, and don't be ashamed if your consistency is once a month or once every 3 months, because you have to take time to learn what you're doing, right? Because if you do something every week, a week comes very fast. So you have to give yourself time to make some mistakes, because mistakes are going to happen. Trucks are not going to start. The delivery is going to be late. The person who said they were going to get the boxes, stayed up late that night talking to some friends and they missed it and they forgot. The bags aren't going to be large enough. You got the fruit, but the fruit they said it was good fruit, but the fruit don't look that good. So now you got to go through the fruit and pick out the good fruit from the bag. There are going to be mistakes. Be fine with that. Be fine with that. But if I'm prepared, it gives me room to pivot, right? It's just like a good preacher. A good preacher knows that if they have to preach, that means they have to be prepared. Nobody gets up to a mic, at least I hope not, and like, whatever the Holy Spirit gonna do, that's what he gonna do. No, you have a text, you have studied, you have put time in. So if something goes left, you already have something prepared. But when we just kind of running in with no preparation, we don't have any strategy, we just hoping things gonna come together. When it goes left, everything goes left. And it just falls by the wayside. So you want to prioritize, you want to be consistent. And you do want to have some sort of staffing. We have to find somebody other than ourselves. I'm pausing for effect. We have to find some, I know we know how to do it. I know we know how to do it, but we are just one person. And if I try to do everything, who's watching the show? If I try to do everything, who gets to see where the changes need to be made? I can't see it because I'm in it. I can't work in it and work on it at the same time. It just trust me, because I know it just does not, it won't happen, because you're going to be so busy trying to make it happen that you have to be able to see from up here. And the volunteers and whoever else you bring on, they let them do all of that. You need to be able to stand back. And when you stand back, you can say, oh, you know what? We probably need 2 lines instead of 1. Oh, you know what? I think if they came in this way, traffic would flow better. So, but if I'm in it, you don't see anything. So, well, Reverend Kendra, we don't have money for that. We can't hire anybody. Okay, get a volunteer. Because here's the thing. If we're not going to trust God to give us resource, now we can do the work, but if we don't have faith that God can be able to bring resource, then what are we doing? Because we're not going to be able to do it all ourselves. And I guarantee you, there's somebody else in your church, there's somebody else in your community who's just waiting for an opportunity to serve. And what we were surprised about is how many people really wanted to serve. Like, I was shocked. Now, mind you, it was the pandemic, people were trying to get out the house. So that did have something to do with it. And our volunteers go up and down. I'm not going to tell you I'm going to be fully transparent about that. Recruiting volunteers and keeping volunteers is a full-time job. I don't have a full-time person doing it. I've divided it between 2 staff people, and these staff people are full-time, but they have other responsibilities. But so that I will say that you should invest in some sort of volunteer platform. Sign Up Genius is free. And the payment for it, even if you don't want to do it for free, is not really that expensive. Like, it's affordable. It's an affordable platform. So you want to find somebody other than yourself that can help you, that can be some sort of administrator, that can help you, structure your things out so that you have somebody to lean on. And you want to recruit some volunteers, and you can recruit volunteers obviously from your churches, but you also can recruit volunteers from your schools. You can recruit volunteers from other organizations. You can recruit volunteers from other churches, because some other church, what happened with us is we had other churches who wanted to do what we were doing, but they didn't really have the capacity to do it. So they came and served with us, right? So that's also going to be extremely important and critical that you do that. I think when you're trying to also, create it so that it's viable and sustainable, you do need to look at, do you need certain types of equipment? Like, what is it that you need in order to, make this work? Do you need boxes? Do you need bags? Do you need some shelving? And you might be saying, well, Reverend Kendra, that sounds like money stuff. I need money to do those things. Yeah, you do, but again, you scale it. So if I'm doing it once a month, I won't need as much as if I'm doing it weekly. If I'm doing it once a quarter, I don't need it as much as if I'm doing it once a quarter. I think the challenge is we try to do too much too soon, and then we find that we don't have it, and then we kind of stop because we're like, well, we can't do this. Well, maybe you just try to do too much too soon. Let's just try to figure out what you can do and do that well. And then what you'll find is that people will start to find you. And that's what started to happen. Because we were consistent, people started to find us. So when there were resources that did become available, They were like, oh, I know this church. They've been doing this food thing, for weeks now. And they'll say the same thing about you. I'm sorry, my laptop is about to die. They will say the same thing about you, because they're going to see your consistency. They're going to see your passion. They're going to see your preparation. They're going to see that. Trust me when I tell you, the money will find you if you start somewhere. Sometimes as Black churches, sometimes we want to be like, bam, it's going to be wow. It can be that, but be that with what we have, right? So that you can try to sustain it. The issue is sustainability. What can I do? As Pastor Brown said, yes, you can do a one-off, but what can I do consistently? Oh, because listen, that's what's going to help our community, because it's not about necessarily putting ourselves on display and what we can do. I want to be of help. So if I want to be of help, I've got to figure out what I can do consistently over time that can help. The other one very quickly is partnership. Are there any other organizations or churches in your area that maybe you can partner with? Are there any other organizations that are doing something similar? They may not be churches and they may not look like us, but we can partner with them, right? So there should be, at some point, you should be doing some sort of asset mapping, community mapping in your neighborhood, so you can find out who's around you. A good resource are schools. Schools have so many resources, and sometimes they have community gardens, and sometimes they have people in their schools that want to do these types of things. So partnership and collaboration is going to be extremely important. And then staffing, equipment, partnership, funding. So when it comes to funding, I think that looking at other resources where you can potentially access additional support. So you want to look at if you have a food council in your area. So some counties, some places have food councils. These are people that have come together and they have the support of the local government to help coordinate food, access in your area. That's going to be really, really important. And I will say this to you, many food councils that I've seen are predominantly white. I'm just saying. And it's not a bad thing. I know this has been recorded, it's not a bad thing. What I'm saying is we have to get outside of our own bubble and circle and be willing to collaborate and partner with people that have a like mind and like passion. And they may not always look like me. And they may not always be Christian. So we're going to have to learn to know that sometimes it's around this, that we're stronger together. I've made a lot of friends that are Hindu, that I've made a lot of friends that are Jewish. One of my primary colleagues is a female rabbi. I met her in a food council. One of our other Hindu friends, they have a strong food distribution. I met them through doing this work. So I just want to, throw that out there. Your food banks are great resources. Your county council members, great resources. Your county executives, great resources. And even sometimes your local grocers can be resources and supports. So I would definitely encourage you to have somebody to start kind of looking into those things, because this helps you to be sustainable, because the work is too large for one person in one group, and it's too large for one sector, right? So we're looking at how can we collaborate across so that for the purpose of sustainability. One of the challenges of the Black church, and I'll say this and I'll stop, is that we want to do it all. Sometimes as a Black church, we want to do it all. And that's not always realistic, nor is it sustainable. So I'm good with working with somebody else that knows what they're doing. One of our partners directly across the street, the only thing that divides us is the street. She is their Black church, Rainbow Community Development Corporation. And we had never really done any work with them before. We had a great relationship, but we never had done any work together before. And when all this food stuff started happening, she has had a food program for the last 20 plus years. In her organization, her church is not necessarily a large church like Kingdoms is, but she has learned how to use her community resources to help build this ongoing distribution that she's been doing. And now we work very closely together. We just wrote a grant together for shared cold storage space. And we won the grant. And so now we're going to be helping to build, to spec a shared cold storage space in Eastern Montgomery County that would be not just for us, but for other food access providers, so that if they don't have space to store their food, then they can store the food there. So it's taking a lot of time, much longer than we thought. But we received a grant, and then what she did, she went for a bond bill with her delegate. That's why it's important to connect with your county council members, your delegates. Let them know what you're doing. Many of them are very supportive. You know what I mean? And so the delegate knew what she was doing. She said, hey, bond bill season is open. She did the bond bill. She got a bond bill for $200,000. The grant we received was for $164,000. We put all that together, and now, you know, we're working to get this shared cold storage space. So that's partnership and collaboration, right? She has a great know-how. Kingdom has a great infrastructure. So we were able to come together and do it that way. And I really honestly believe wholeheartedly that can happen even more over time. But I would just encourage you, whatever you're going to do it consistently. Don't try to take on more than you can chew. And I promise you, you will stand out like it will be like the sun. What's that scripture? Is it Psalms 34 where it says, you know, God will give you the desires of your heart when you delight yourself in him, and he will make your justice, he will make your cause shine forth as bright as the noonday. And that's what happens, because this is not about us. We're just trying to serve. And God is, y'all know this. I don't need to preach y'all churches, but you know what I'm saying. But I think I will end with saying this. Find out what you can do consistently and do it wholeheartedly. Even if you think it's not significant, even if you think it's small. I started doing this work when I was a pastor at my church, and all I could give was like 20 bags, 25 bags. And the school was so excited. And you know what they said to me? They said, out of all the churches we've had to serve in this building, nobody has offered to serve our students like you have. And all I could give was 25 to 30 bags, right? So I promise you, if you are sincere about what you're trying to do, find a way to do it consistently. Say for the next year, we're going to commit to do this time or the next 3 months, and then see how it goes and do it from there. Okay? I'm sorry, I get excited and I get to rambling. I'll stop.
Oh my, listen to me. Can we just give Reverend Kendra a hybrid hand clap and applause? Oh my goodness. Let me tell y'all something, y'all. Reverend Kendra's my sister. I texted her maybe an hour and a half ago, like, hey, what you doing tonight? She gonna come on. She got 3 points, a hoop, a scripture, a song. I pray that you were encouraged by what you heard from Reverend Kendra Smith. I pray the farmers, I got my farmers on. I'm so grateful. I'm going to pivot right to them next. But to my farmer family, did y'all hear about Kingdom Fellowship in partnership to build out cold storage? This is the kind of stuff. And when I go around to other churches, other cities, I talk about Kingdom everywhere I go because of the way that Reverend Kendra's leadership, Pastor Watley's dynamic leadership, the church infrastructure, the fact that they're even thinking about cold storage, they're helping to validate a dream and the idea that I've always had about Black churches, that we could help build out infrastructure to support Black farmers and to support the development of food systems and not just food distribution, in terms of like these one-off outreach events, which are fine in their own right. Please don't take it like I'm knocking that. But I'm just saying, how do we build on that? What does the next thing look like? And in my book, Reverend Kendra Smith, Pastor Watley, the Kingdom Fellowship AME Church is a part of what the next thing looks like in terms of what churches can do. One more time, y'all, give some love to my dear sister. Oh my goodness. It's time for offering. I got to get your Cash App and send you some offering because that was phenomenal. Thank you, Reverend Kendra.
Thank you. You guys take care. It was a pleasure. And I wish you the best. That God will continue to bless the work of your hands. Take care, Pastor. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Love you. Thank you, Rev.
Bye-bye. Yep.